Why do I know that work-life balance is dead? Maybe it's that I want to train every single day. I want to be active. I don't want to sit at a desk all the time. So I set myself up for a long life. Maybe it's that I want to travel through Norway with my best friend in her van and see the beauty of the world before it is destroyed by climate change. Or maybe it's that I want to spend time with my dying parent, caring for him in the last few weeks and months of his life, making it known that I love him, despite leading an international career where I'm usually very, very far away. This is what I mean by work-life integration. It's not that work is deprioritized. It is that I can be the multifaceted person that I want to be while still adding value, while still being driven and ambitious and contributing to the organization. But there are other priorities that I have as well. And I need the control and the agency to set up my life so I can do everything that I want from it, so I can meet my full potential. That is what I'm going to unpack in this video today. The importance of moving away from what companies call work-life balance, creating a harmonious relationship between our work and our personal lives by setting and maintaining boundaries. This is far too one-dimensional to capture all of the things that I've shared before. In this context, they would have said, stop working, care for your dying father, earn X percentage of your wage, and let's not even think about what you might need financially in this time, let alone the intellectual stimulation that might be missing during this time that will keep you grounded. No, that's not what we allow. So work-life integration encompasses work-life balance. It gives us the control and agency to choose, yes, I want to maintain these boundaries. That's how I work the best. That is an option. Work-life integration is the umbrella of this. We can choose to blend the different parts of our lives that are important to us in the way that we want and add probably more value to the organizations that we exist in. And first recognize that underpinning this concept that work-life balance is dead is Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the next generation of talent that is coming into the workforce, and remote and hybrid work. The thing that the pandemic exposed for us is that it is possible to work away from the office. And not only it is possible, but we can add so much more value if we do that with the right systems, processes, and tools. The genie is out the box there. I want to unpack 3 other factors, more detailed factors. The first one being health and well-being. The second one, more than money, so meaning. And the third one, the tools and technology now and how that is a different context from where the processes that we have today were created. So looking into health and well-being, multifaceted lives. We don't want to live in time buckets. Reminiscent of this organizational setup where we come to work at 9 and leave at 5 and get told what to do there is being treated like a child. No one wants to feel like a child, not even children. Why do organizations think that we as individuals are going to thrive in a space that does this to us? We want to be living and integrating all the parts of our lives if we so choose. And that includes working when and where it suits us. I don't believe that I would have come out of the time I spent with my father watching him fade away if I didn't have intellectual stimulation on another end, at work, with my colleagues, having that connection point back to my life in Sweden, because at that point I was in South Africa with my family. That kept me sane. So that's what I mean by living our multifaceted lives. For other people, it is sport, or it is family, or, it's travel. It's so many things to so many different people. Organizations can't cater for all of the details of everyone's lives. It is far too complex. So rather, they need to give the tools and the resources and set up systems in a way that design with inclusivity in mind. Usually, when you design for the most vulnerable in a situation, you end up serving a better experience to everybody else. So rather than catering for the person who wants to work and travel, if they catered for someone like me who wants to care for a dying parent and have that very strong connection back to their work, they would also serve that person that wanted to travel. And that's what we mean by inclusive design of systems and processes. The next one is health. Energy ebbs and flows at different times of the day. Podcasts like Huberman Lab have given us so much information, a wealth of information and protocols for allowing us to thrive. Not us in a generic way, but understanding all of the background factors that we can tweak and change to get the most out of our lives and our health, to have lives that are long, where we are thriving at the end of them, not only in the middle section. And for that, we need to be engaging in a lot of things in our youth, our 20s, 30s, 40s, that set us up for long-term health. If we are sitting here hunched over at our desk looking at our computer for 8, 9, 10 hours of the day without moving properly, even if you just spoon on a topping of training at the end, we're not going to be as well off at 90 or 80 than if we were walking around, picking up and playing with our children, going out in the middle of the day for, a training session, and maybe the end of the day is a walk or something else. Really being able to engage with nature and light and all of the things we know are really good for us. That also links into mental clarity. This is where it is illogical for me that organizations don't recognize we as people can provide more value to the organization if we are able to set up our lives in a way and do the work when is best for our focus, when we have the most mental clarity. People generally don't have that on a rigid 9 to 5. We might need to sleep a bit later some days to be super focused and awake during the day. We might need to take a nap at a certain point in time or stop work in the middle of the day after we've eaten and then come back to work in the evening. Most of Western society hasn't set up a workday like this, and so we are not providing the most value to organizations on this schedule. At the same time, working 5 days a week and then switching off for 2 days is also illogical. It doesn't make sense. I get so many of my ideas on the weekend, and of course I'm going to work. I'm going to put them down. I'm going to get as much out there, and I'm going to let my mind take me where it wants to go. I'm not going to cut myself off, not because I want to add all the value to the organization, but because work is important to me and I want to do my best work as much as I can. And then going to more than money. So Gen Z especially values a lot more than money. Of course, it needs to be a hygiene factor, but once that hygiene factor is in place, there are other things that are important to this generation. And this generation is going to make up 25% of the workforce in the coming years, which means a lot is going to have to be rethought to cater to top talent in this age group. Things like career development, flexibility, meaningful work, that is hyper important, are all factors that this generation values. Compounding that with the pandemic and how the internet, in conjunction with the pandemic, has reconnected us to the needs and desires that we have as people, has proven to us that it is possible to lead the integrated lives that we want and to be more productive and effective at the same time. And then the last one on this point, total rewards. So while compensation and benefits are tangible, you get your bonus, you get your pay, you get all of these sorts of things, there are other more intangible things that are important to recognize and form into a value proposition beyond money. A big one here is meaning. And for me, it's intellectual stimulation, like I mentioned before. And there's so much more probably that I'm not even speaking around that is important to factor in here. And then number 3, tools and technology. The context has changed from when the systems we're currently working in were created. So work processes in the now should be formed in this new context. There are so many more tools and technologies available where we can work differently if we want to. We can have asynchronous work, we can have hybrid and remote work. Given we're working in this globalized context, it's quite funny to me that companies that have a distributed workforce across the globe still want people in the office to have their Zoom call or Skype call with some other person in a different office somewhere else. Don't ask me why. I know why, but that's a different topic. And then compounding value. So technology is a variable that compounds. The more changes it introduces, the faster and more changes come until society is different. What do I mean by this? Well, technology has impacted so much of how we live our lives. Phones are an example of that. Why do we think that as we've introduced more and more technology, that our processes in an organization will stay static? So the context has changed and new work process should be formed in this new context. The fact that the tools and technology we have at our disposal are so radically different to when the organizational system, hierarchy structure, work processes were set up means that now there's so much value we can likely unlock with new tools and technology. As individuals, we should be taking advantage of that to accelerate us in our career. We should be recognizing where there are missing pieces and using that to our advantage, such as AI and how we can integrate that into our workflows, but also simple things like just Google searches or not having to store all the knowledge of our profession in our head, having it recorded on a screen somewhere and we can constantly refer back to. Things like this lower the mental load so we have more energy to invest in maybe strategic things. So again, we need to view these 3 things working in concert with each other. They are in a bit of a system here and they are speaking to each other. This one is speaking to this one, is speaking to this one, is speaking to this one. Recognizing the backdrop of, we know we can work remote and hybrid. We know the next generation of talent is going to have expectations that are different. Work-life integration, giving people agency and choice, is actually serving people what they need. Tools and technology exist. Gen Z, Gen Alpha use those things in a different way that the designers and the deciders of the systems at the moment likely don't understand and can't comprehend. Those people are also nearing the end of their lives. So maybe they aren't prioritizing health and well-being to the same degree as someone who is younger might, or people with children might. And those people who need to be investing in the new, the designers and the deciders, have probably come from a different paradigm as well concerning meaning and money and the things that they have identified and valued in their life to what people of today actually need. So we need to be really aware of what the systems are gearing us towards, what are they incentivizing, and we need to recognize, especially if you're considered a top performer, a talent, somebody who an organization values highly, that gives you a different kind of power. So if you want to lead a life that is integrated in the way that you would like, comment down below, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Very soon I will have a landing page for this sort of thing. And yeah, I'm just curious about what people think on this topic. In my mind, work-life balance is dead. If organizations don't get on this train and go more towards work-life integration, then corporate decline and decay will soon be a thing of the now. And another video that I want to make, I have so much content that I want to create for you. I'll put some relevant links and inspiration for this topic in the comments as well. See you in the next one.